States of America. And now we'll have short statements and questions. So first, General, the floor is yours for a short statement.
So let me just take a second here to introduce some other folks real quick, because you may have some other questions. I'll field some questions. Of course, the Lithuanian child will field some questions, but I also want to introduce the deputy ambassador here in the United States Embassy, Timur. Thank you. General Kolashevsky over here. He is the commander of the United States 5th Corps, armor officer, and he's in charge of all the ground forces here in Europe. Where's McCarthy? Come on over here. Colonel McCarthy. He is coming to us from the Big Red 1, the 1st Infantry Division here. And he's the brigade commander, and he's the brigade commander in charge of this battalion. And where's Brother Godson?
Sure.
And Colonel Godson here, he's the battalion commander for this particular battalion. And they'll all be available for any kind of questions. Let me just say just a couple of brief remarks here. First, the reason I'm here is to check on the U.S. troops that are here. These guys have been here for 6 or 7 months now. We intentionally have extended them in place because of the situation that's happened down in Ukraine. And as everyone is tracking, today is the 10th day of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Ukraine is a free and independent country, has been since 1991. And what the Russians have done is not good, illegal, and the rest of the world recognizes that. And we have all rallied behind Ukraine. But for us, the United States, we are a member state, a founding member state of NATO. NATO is a major alliance for the United States. It's a critical core national interest for us, has been for a lot of years. And we have deployed forces to here, Lithuania, but also to Estonia and Latvia, Romania, Poland, and many other countries to demonstrate our resolve and our commitment to NATO Article 5. As President Biden has said, and many others, senior officials in our government have said, the United States of America takes NATO very seriously, takes our commitments very seriously, and takes our obligations under Article 5 very seriously. And President Biden just the other night said that the United States will defend every inch of NATO territory along with our allies and partners, and Lithuania is critical to that, and we intend to do exactly that. We will continue to support the people of Ukraine to the extent that it's humanly possible. We will do that in many, many different ways, but we do intend to defend NATO Article 5 if threatened and attacked by any foreign country, and we intend to do that. And that's the purpose of why these forces, why this armored battalion is here. There are other forces coming to Lithuania. We've got an artillery battery showing up. We've got F-35s that came in here. We've got some special operations forces. We've got some air defense and some other capabilities. So the United States is very committed, and I can tell you that we have trained hard with the Lithuanian military. It's a high-quality military, small but very, very high quality, very effective leadership, very effective tactics, and very good, high-quality military, and we're very proud to serve along their side. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to the Chad for any remarks that you may have, and thank you for the opportunity. We'll answer some questions in a minute.
Okay. At the beginning, thank you so much for very kind and nice words. And really, today is a significant day. By the way, the historical day because the first U.S. shot visiting us, Lithuania. The reason why it is because every time U.S. shows that is the closest and the strongest ally in NATO and strongest ally for us. And today I personally grateful to General Milley for his leadership, and his leadership ensures us that we're not alone. We can deter in worst case scenarios. We will together with US, with rest of allies, we will defend our state. Thank you so much. I'm ready to answer to the questions.
Charge or Ambassador, would you like to make a comment on behalf of the State Department?
Sure. Just to say this is part of a sequence of visits that we have had to Lithuania over recent weeks to show our very strong commitment We had Secretary Austin here 2 weeks ago. Secretary Blinken will be arriving this evening. All of these are concrete demonstrations of the attention the United States is paying to Lithuania as it watches what Russia is doing in Ukraine and sees how Belarus is facilitating that. And as the chairman said, the president has been very clear in our commitment to defend every inch of NATO territory. Thank you.
So over to you.
Okay, thank you. Now it's time for questions, and first question is for Spaudos from Baltic News.
And you have many choices to ask.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I have a question for General Milley. Lithuanian defense minister the other day said that United States will deploy one more tank battalion in Lithuania. I was just wondering if you can confirm that.
Yeah, so what the President of the United States and the Secretary of Defense of the United States decided to do on recommendations from the military was to alert, marshal, and deploy another brigade, an armor brigade, from the United States. That process is ongoing right now. They are in the process of deploying. The troops are coming over here. They're landing in Germany. They're drawing their equipment from Germany. And then General Walters, the Supreme Allied Commander Europe, and General Cavoli, U.S. Army Europe, will deploy them to various countries. Lithuania is one of them. And there'll be other places that that unit will deploy and cycle through and train. So they are on the way.
Can you please specify how many troops and capabilities?
I can't right this second because I actually don't know, but maybe General Kolachevsky, it'll be companies and battalions, but they'll cycle through. But go ahead, tell them what your plan is.
Can you please specify the additional capabilities of U.S. and Lithuania?
So it's an armor brigade combat team that's coming into Germany, as the chairman has said. And so about 3,500 soldiers, a little over that. It's got tanks, it's got Bradleys, it's got self-propelled artillery, it's got all sorts of sustainment capabilities as well. Still assessing exactly where we're going to place them along the eastern flank.
So the final deployment in terms of how they cycle through, exactly where, how many, etc., that's still being refined by General Cavoli, General Walters, General Kolachevsky.
Also, a follow-up, if you don't mind, you talked about air defense capabilities being stationed in Lithuania. Can you please tell us more? Which capabilities are you talking about specifically?
So we in coordination with Lithuanian Defense Forces, do have some radars that we've put in, counterfire radars, as well as also air missile defense radars. And we have short-range air defense artillery, surface-to-air Avengers that are going to be here as part of the U.S. contingent.
Okay, thank you. Vaidas, please.
Thank you, General. If I may go back to 2016, what you said, despite everything we've been doing, we will stop you. We will beat you harder than you ever been beaten before. Now, with all confidence, can you repeat those words, considering the situation that you've seen now in Ukraine, the Russian performance? And second question, if I may, you've been talking to Russian counterpart, General Gerasimov, a couple times recently, a couple of weeks ago, just before this war started. Did he give you any indications of what was about to come? Was he arrogant or overconfident? Did he show you on again, considering the Russian performance? Do you have any assessments of what you've seen so far?
Yeah, so let me start with your quote. That was when I was Chief of Staff of the Army in a speech, I believe, back then. Hey, look, the United States military is a trained, ready, capable, and powerful military. And we will do whatever is required to defend U.S. national interests and the national interests of our allies and partners. And as the President of the United States said, we will defend every inch of NATO Article 5 territory. We are a very serious military, and we are a very capable military, and no one should ever doubt that. So, on the piece on the second question, I have had many conversations with General Gerasimov, as well as other CHODs around the world. I communicate with all of my counterparts around the world on a frequent basis, and that is part of the normal day-to-day activities of the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in order to maintain good military-to-military relations. And those relations are very important in times of crisis. And I have talked to General Gerasimov several different times prior to the 24th when they invaded Ukraine. Those conversations are private. He and I have an agreement that we will not disseminate those in public, so I honor that agreement. We do disseminate those to our governmental officials, to our senior leaders, our political leadership, the intelligence communities, etc., but we do not discuss in public what we discuss in those conversations.
Okay, thank you. Mariel, please.
Question to you, General. Do you have any indication about Belarus' participation in the fights in Ukraine?
It is clear to everyone that Russian forces invaded Ukraine, and they came out of Russia, but also they came out of Belarus. They came across the Ukrainian border through the Chernobyl exclusion zone, north of Kiev, northwest of Kiev, and they came down from Belarusian territory, which makes Belarus a co-belligerent in the conflict with Ukraine.
I have a question to Lithuanian military chief, if you don't mind. I'm not sure though in which language should I go.
Lietuviškai.
Lietuviškai, ne? 40 milijonų skirti priimančiosios šalies paramai. Vakar vyriausybės sprendimu ministras sakė, kad bus 3 stovyklos, kurios bus ar įrengtos, ar išplėstos, jeigu tai yra esamų stovyklų pagrindu. Ar galit patikslinti, kurios stovyklos?
Taip, teisinga informacija pateikė. Dabar yra mūsų 3 pagrindiniai tikslai. Tai dabar reiškia teikti pagalbą Ukrainai, reaguoti šitą situaciją ir padaryti mums atitinkamai koviniai parengti tiek Lietuvos kariuomenė, tiek kartu su sąjungais, aišku, įvykdyti visas priimančios šalies funkcijas. Tai einant iš pozicijos, kad mes turim užtikrinti savo sąjungų atvykimą čia ir buvo priimtas sprendimas, reiškia skirti finansavimą ir rengti 3 stovyklavietės, kur galėtumėm priimti iki brigados dydžio vienetą, tai 3 stovyklavietės po 800 vietų, tai bus Kazlų Rūdoj, bus Marijampolė ir bus čia Pabradėje.
Galit patikslinti, kokioms pajėgoms priimti, ar jau priimti sprendimai, kas bus sprendimai?
Kaip žinote, dabar yra aktyvuotas NATO greito reagavimo planas ir atgrasimo ir gynybos planas. Ir čia bus sprendžiama, kokios pajėgas bus generuotos, kokios bus permestas. Ir taip pat mes kalbame su Amerika dvišališkai, kad būtų pastiprinimas, jeigu reiktų to ir jeigu atsirastų toks poreikis.
Iš tos brigados dabar, kuri bus dislokuojama ir vidurio ir rytų Europoje, amerikiečių, gal jūs turite jau naujienų, kas bus dislokuota Lietuvoje? Ministras vakar skelbė apie tankų batalioną. Galit patvirtinti šitą informaciją?
Aš galiu patvirtinti tai, kad visą laiką dabar išliks šitas batalionas, arba tokio dydžio batalionas čia, bus papildytas artilerijos vienetas, oro gynybos vienetas. Aišku, gali amerikiečių sprendimų keistis tą konfiguraciją vienetų, bet ji bus visą laiką tiek, kiek reikės čia.
Just one more question for the general, just to follow.
For this general? Or that one?
For you, sir.
I'm
sorry.
Lieutenant General, you general.
Yes, of course.
Just to follow up on what was said about Belarus, again, you spoke with the Belarusian counterparts a couple of weeks ago, not following into the private details of the conversation, obviously, but do you see any indications that there's a clear, imminent, or whatever danger coming from Belarus to NATO countries at all?
Right now, we are not seeing, and we watch very, very closely, obviously, with all of the intelligence capabilities of NATO, all of the countries of NATO, and all the intelligence capabilities, and the intelligence capabilities of the United States. We'll watch the situation very, very carefully. We are not seeing any clear, unambiguous indicators of an attack on a NATO Article 5 country at this time. That could change. That could change tonight. It could change tomorrow. It could change next week. But right now, we're not seeing that at this time.
Short question from me also, if you don't mind. The permanent presence of U.S. troops is the thing Lithuanian officials often speak about and ask Americans if they have a chance to meet them. Do you have any announcements?
Yeah, so I don't have any announcements, but the idea of a permanent presence of U.S. forces in Lithuania, or any other country for that matter, is under consideration by our policymakers. We, the military, will execute whatever policies are decided upon by our senior leadership, and it's an active discussion. I know that Secretary Austin, the senior leaders within the Department of Defense, are relooking the posture, the U.S. military posture, not only here in Europe, but elsewhere around the world. So I have no announcements to make, but that is under active consideration.
Okay, thank you. Last question, Mariel, do you have?
NATO, Baltic states would like to change the posture of NATO in the region from a deterrence posture to a defense posture. Do you think it's a could NATO agree on that?
I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that. Maybe you can help me out here.
Well, the NATO Secretary General said that the posture is changing from deterrence to defense. What would that mean in practical terms? Probably the question is that.
Yeah, so from a military standpoint, in order to deter, if your opponent, the whole theory of a deterrence is that your opponent knows you have certain capabilities, you're willing to use those capabilities, either offensively or defensively. So to defend is a subset of how you deter. If your opponent knows, your adversary knows, your enemy knows that you're capable of defending and that you can raise the cost of any offensive action that they may have beyond an acceptable level to your enemy, then therefore you'll have deterrence. So being able to defend, which is really what NATO is, a defensive alliance, it's not an offensive alliance, being able to defend adequately is fundamental to the whole principle of deterrence. So in this case, we want to make sure that Russia knows that an attack on Lithuania or any other NATO Article 5 country comes with a cost that will be unacceptable to Russia, and therefore, assuming that they are a rational actor, that they will choose not to attack if the cost exceeds the benefit.
Do you think
that's the theory of it.
Rational actor now, considering U.S. warned about the sanctions, about all the consequences, all the price they would pay, but they nonetheless invaded Ukraine. Do you think they're rational in that regard?
Well, I'm not going to go into analysis in front of cameras on Putin or any other national leader's rationality. I'm not going to do that. I will just say that the United States and our NATO allies are prepared to do whatever it takes to defend NATO Article 5 territory.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, General.
Thank you. Okay, y'all be good.
Thank you.
You guys are stepping over here.
Somewhere, please.
Gerai, kolegos, palaukiam dar trupučiuką. Gerai, išvažiuosit, tada galėsim pasidalinti. Minutė.